Hey guys, this is Stu from Autoria. I was going to make this video a little bit later to kind of walk you guys through the code, but as soon as we hit that announcement, people were like, this is Minerium. So I want to kind of explain the differences. There are similarities, but I think we're pulling this off and doing a lot better job at it. So I'm going to run through the code with you guys. Pretty straightforward. I have the source code here. We'll be publishing this. I'll go through the exact process of what we're going to do when we launch this with the ICO. I'm going to show you basic differences between this contract and the contract Minerium posted out. And then I'm going to kind of reiterate our plans to make sure that this coin hits the markets as soon as possible, because just because you ICO doesn't mean that this coin is necessarily going to be a success. You really have to wrap around it and provide the services to your investors that makes the coin a long-term successful product. And so that's broken up into several stages with Autoria through our white paper. And if you haven't checked it out, go ahead, check it out. It's got everything that I'm going to talk about and more in there. But of course, a video's a lot easier to digest, and I kind of just want to talk with you guys too to run through it. So anyways, a lot of deliverables that we're going to be throwing at you guys. We got the exchanges. Then we're moving over into the dApps, and that's just this basic Solidity code that you can interact with your browser. And then the final sort of push to make sure that this coin is really something that sticks into the market is that mobile application. And so that's going to be based on a lot of these dApps that we created, rolled up into a much more easy, convenient way for people to use them. So let's roll through the code. Minerium is a self-mining smart contract. Really what that means, it's an ERC20 pre-mined token. And so the investors of this token are basically unable to access a certain amount of tokens over a period of time. So it emulates mining, and that's really all that is to it, right? They're doing things a little bit differently. They decided that, we're going to break it up into addresses, and every IP address has its own address. I'm not a big fan of that. I think everything should be handled by the blockchain itself, and so we're actually doing the ICO on the blockchain, and bada bing. We also are doing this with Ethereum, so you pay Ethereum and get Autoria back while you get your initial proof of stake in the total project. You get your aquifer, and then you get your wallet, because the thing about Minerium is it has no inherent value. The people behind Minerium, they have really no funds to start listing this on exchanges, which is a big cost, or to start doing some marketing to get people behind this. So for the people behind Minerium, they have to actually liquidate the Minerium coin at a cost, and we don't really want to be in a position to do that. We want the market to be built up on demand, and if we oversaturate it with supply, then the price is going to dip down. And so we're not really a big fan of doing that. And so to have it stapled onto Ethereum and have that inherent value, we can hit those exchanges and actually have a asset that holds real value. And I'll get into the psychology and the economics and stuff like that of the actual self-mining part later on. But not to take too many more jabs at Minerium, but looking through here, it's just basic Wix site. I don't know how many people are really familiar with Wix, but it's a few clicks. We spent a little bit more time putting this thing together. The Minerium contract, really, then, what these people did is they just gathered up a whole bunch of IP addresses. I'm assuming like a Google Sheets, and if there are two IP addresses that were the same, it kicked them out. And they were like, yeah, submit your address, and they made this ERC20 token, which is a pretty it's a standard token that all the ICOs follow, and they just copy and pasted all the addresses of the people that put in their address into the actual contract. So we're flowing down here, and there's not a whole lot else that's going on here. This is just all basic boilerplate functions. The ERC token contract is something that you can look up, and you can deploy an ERC token contract if you want tomorrow, right? And so really all that's happening here is we're copying and pasting this code, and then we're slapping in that ERC20 code at the end. And just the formatting and stuff's kind of wonky, it's a little confusing, semantics at that point. But looking here, there's not really that much difference between just a standard ERC token, which has certain things like max supply, decimals, balance of, symbols. These are all things that you have to incorporate in your ERC token if exchanges are going to take it and things like that. But yeah, that's really just about it. There's not a whole lot to really interact with on this front. And so let's take a look at the Autoria code. It's a little bit different. So right off the bat, there are certain functions that an ERC token has to adhere to. Otherwise, exchanges aren't going to take it. It's basically Ethereum's way of saying, look, we're all going to release tokens like this, so they all behave the same way. And that way, programs and dApps and software on the web and things like that can interact with these tokens all the same way, regardless if it's a Minerium token, a Autoria token, like a Golem token, or anything that is released on the Ethereum blockchain underneath this can be interacted with in a similar method. So you can see those functions up here: total supply, balance of transfer. And if you remember when we were looking at the Etherscan for Minerium, those are all implemented there. Safe math is just for overflows. You don't want integer overflowage, or there could be some really bad stuff that's going on. And so we incorporate a lot of this stuff, but we also incorporate a few more interesting features here, where not only are we mapping people's addresses to a certain value, but we're mapping their aquifers and their initial stakes. So however much that you initially invest in Autoria, you get those tokens back, and that's your initial stake. And that initial stake actually determines how many coins you can draw from your well, essentially, at every single block. So if your initial stake is larger, you obviously can draw more Autorium, and if your initial stake is smaller, that's fine too, but you're going to only be able to draw a proportional amount comparatively to the rest of the people who incorporate or invest in this. And then also we're keeping track of everybody that has a well. And this is really, really cool, because what we can do later on is we can do things like iDice. They basically funnel their house edge back into the investors. We can do that because we know everybody who initially invested. Only the investors have this Boolean be true. So we can go and look at any address, and if you're interacting with one of our dApps, we can just say, all right, are they a well? Yes, give them the perks. No, don't give them the perks. And this is a really unique way to reward people who got in on this and are supporting us in the early days of this project. So similarly, we have these modifiers, the issuers and the investors. The issuers, obviously, our Genesis address, I guess you could call it. It's the person who releases the contract. And this is important because only investors can actually invest in the ICO. The issuer can't. And so that's important because we don't really want this to be something where we retain all the coins. We're retaining 30% of them, and this is so that we can set up on those exchanges and provide the liquidity as these wells are starting to be drawn. And that's it, right? We aren't participating in the ICO. We're not doing a lot of rallying. Like BAT token had a huge problem with insiders just flooding the market. We're really just focused on making this great and making this something that people can enjoy and support. And so we have this ICO function baked in where we reward people on an early sale, 1 Ethereum to, I believe it's 17.5. This is the exchange rate. So 1 Ethereum is going to get you 17,500 initial stake, right? And then that's going to be drawable over the course of the entirety of your aquifer. And so if you get in early, which is the 1 week, you basically get to take advantage of that. So 1 Ethereum, 17,500. If it's after a week, 1.3 Ethereum is going to get you at 17,500. So this is important too, because it dictates what happens when you invest. There's nothing that's a variable on how we act. It's on the blockchain. Anyone can look at it. They say, if I push this to here, this is what happens. There's no if, ands, or buts. There's no, like writing things down and saying, all right, we're going to then write you in the contract. Sweet. We deployed this prior, whereas Minerium actually had to wait for everybody to participate before they could deploy that contract. So a little bit different. We're really big proponents of the blockchain altogether, and so we want to do this right. So there's a few different things. So I'm going to act like I'm the issuer of this. We're gonna create these addresses. We're gonna do this on Remix. Cool. All right. This is gonna allow us to access a plethora of just basic addresses. Let's use a new one with safe math. All right. So deploy, and you can see everything's getting deployed. And so you can check if people are wells. You can check your aquifer. You can. We offered to basically this is the given mapping function if you just want to get right on the blockchain, and then we just wrote another Solidity get as well. The exchange rate, the name, this is all stuff that you can pick up if it's the early sale price, or this is the early sale price, but you can see the Boolean if it's the current early sale. Available draw, right? And so you basically check how much you can draw from, and then you draw from your well. And this is important because what you're going to be doing is every single block you get rewarded a certain amount of draw. So the more time that's spent without drawing, it builds up, and then you can draw from that whenever you want, and that starts to deplete your aquifer. The way that's calculated is that we scroll down here. It's a very simple function, a linear function here. It's just your initial stake divided by the blocks until exhaustion multiplied by time, and that's going to get you your available draw. That is then subtracted by how much your aquifer has left in it, and that's because your initial stake subtracted by what it should be is going to give you how much you can draw, and then we update those variables, spit it back in. So that should give you a little brief overview. Again, feel free to read the white paper. It's a lot more illuminating than what I'm talking about here in terms of just the basics. So another thing is we're providing liquidity here. Livecoin's really easy to get on. Cryptopia is really easy to get on. UOBit, HitBTC, CryptoDAO. There are a few of Nova Exchange There are a few decentralized ones that are really no-brainers. Like everybody should be on these two because it's like a self-service. You just basically upload your contract in a way. So yeah, it's all about the investors, getting them something that is a long-term investment that's going to raise in value and have those mechanisms in it to support it. So I hope this was a helpful look into what we're doing. And post on this thread if you have any extra questions, and we'll be happy to answer them. All right, great. Thanks, guys.